Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Spizzato, mother of 6, running for the Pomfret Board of Education this November. Today, I'm excited to bring you some information that you may not be aware of, but that you probably should. First and foremost, I want to thank our Democratic First Selectman for coming out on the record on Winnie Radio this past week, sharing the truth about how the town's annual budget vote was held. Some of you may recall back at the end of May, I posted and created a podcast episode on how I felt strongly that this was mishandled and didn't serve the best interest of the people of Pomfret. I went on the record noting that the vote for an over $11 million budget was held in the cafeteria of our community school one evening with over 300 people, standing room only, residents of surrounding town present, people joking openly about voting twice in the 2 separate lines that wrapped around the cafeteria, and the worst part was that no one verified ID, age, residency, nothing for a single voter. At that time, I was bullied and called a conspiracy theorist, amongst many other nasty things. Witnesses to this event did not stand up and back my claims. I stood alone on my sounding board, questioning why this was acceptable. I took it a step further and reached out to my friends on boards in surrounding local towns and found out that not a single other town I spoke with lacked the ability to check in voters on their voting for their budgets. Wild, right? On this latest episode of Winnie, the Democrat First Selectman proudly stated that we had budgets passed in the past with 10 to 20 residents, but that we had an overwhelming amount of people show up for this vote, something they were not prepared for. I'd like to ask, with close to 3,000 registered voters in the town of Pomfret, how is this even allowed? How do you pass a vote on something so massive with less than 1% of the voter population showing up in years past? That's just ludicrous. Why did so many turn out for this vote? Why now? And why is not being prepared for the turnout an acceptable excuse for the gross negligence here managing our town's budget vote? Serving over 12 years in her position, I would expect a lot more foresight and preparation to make sure it runs smoothly and with integrity. Do not give people a reason to question it. Another fun fact, someone or a group of people authorized pamphlets in each student's backpack, as well as Facebook posts and signs on our school's door, the place where our vote took place, mind you, all steering the voters to choose yes or risk a bunch of consequences that would directly and negatively impact our kids. Supposedly, the state of Connecticut takes voter intimidation very seriously, according to its website. If you do a little research, you will find a lengthy section on laws against any person or group of people influencing or attempting to influence voters into voting a specific way at our polling places. Why was this encouraged at ours? How are we the exception to the law? Did this contribute to the overwhelming turnout we saw? Were all of the voters residents of age, or did some of these people from other towns in attendance and speaking at our meeting slip in votes while they were there? Why do we allow non-residents at this meeting and budget vote? These are all questions that have still gone unanswered. Did you know that there are no checks and balances for the people of Pomfret regarding these questions and these issues? That's right. I went round and round, formally filing a complaint to ensure we don't ever see this happen again, but no one took my complaint seriously. A few weeks later, I received an email from the Democratic First Selectman justifying the way the entire event was handled. She went on the record on Winnie, also stating that she has no plans in the future to address this as of now, and that'll come up when the time comes. But why wouldn't this be immediately after learning of this problem so they can be better prepared for next time? After all, she openly admitted they were not prepared. The next big issue you may not be aware of is the fact that our town won't spend the money and the time to allow a referendum that other towns do. What is a referendum? Well, as opposed to our meeting and vote that occurred in a small window of hours on one evening on a weeknight, a referendum is open for the entire day, typically the same hours of our regular elections, so that more people can attend. This gives voters the ability to go before work, after work, and all throughout the day. This guarantees a better turnout, in my opinion. The excuse our first selectman gave for not having one was the cost. She went on the record stating it could cost a few thousand and up to $10,000. I would love to challenge if we can find thousands in our budget to provide school supplies, bicycles, and other miscellaneous items for our school. How is this not just as important? Again, we're voting on over $11 million, but find it acceptable that we don't check people in. We only allow them a very short window of time to get out and vote, and we certify it within 10 minutes of the last voter with under 10% of our registered voters present? Well, we guess, since we didn't actually verify any one of those people were registered voters in our town. How many of you knew this was how our money was managed, or some would say mismanaged? As a resident who saw her taxes rise over 72% this past year to over $15,000 per year without any town trash pickup, no town water, no town sewer, and our road being in pretty rough shape, this is concerning to me. I figured it would also be concerning to others. What concerns me isn't just the mismanagement of our budget vote, but the refusal to explore solutions that would extend voting hours so more residents have the opportunity to participate. If I'm not mistaken, Democrats have previously criticized Republican efforts to require voter IDs and other checks, claiming these measures disenfranchise certain minority groups and seniors. If accessibility is truly the goal, why aren't we all working together to make these voting hours longer and more accommodating, especially when we're deciding on such a significant amount of taxpayer money? I have gone on the record stating I would volunteer to help check IDs. I am sure I could recruit a group of others that would be willing to do the same. Why have we been silenced and even shunned in town for raising these kinds of questions? Did you know they are using these questions against me in my run for the Board of Education? Yep, that's right. They take it as a knock on my character. What are we trying to hide here? I show up for the kids and I show up for the town. I expect the people in high up elected positions getting paid by our tax dollars to do the same, and not just for the residents they agree with. We deserve more. I challenge you to do better. I'm Kathleen Spizzato, running for the Board of Education in Pomfret this fall. Thanks for watching and have a great day.